The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, following the fortunes of all the Borders clubs, and the programme also incorporates a brand new look at the East League teams from the area with Euan Welsh. More about that later. But joining me each week is Robin Purdie, and we'll be casting our eye over the weekend's fixtures and hearing from the clubs as they prepare for the games tomorrow. But first, let's go back to last weekend. All 8 of our Premiership and National League teams were in action, starting with the Premiership. And we must address, first of all, the big game out of the Borders, which was Ayr against Currie at Millbrae. It ended 34-17, a comfortable win for Ayr as predicted against the Scottish champions. What was your own take on it, though?
I think it's probably almost a fair reflection. I didn't expect Ayr to run up a monumental cricket score. It was a possibility, and Ayr have been spoken about so much, of course, as being nailed on favourites as they are at the moment. So I think Currie have probably flew the flag for the ex-Prem, if you want to call it that. They've probably flown the flag for them pretty well down at Millbrae. But yeah, Ayr were expected to win that, and Ayr have won that, and Ayr will chalk up bigger scores against other Premiership or ex-Premiership teams than that this season at Currie. So I think Currie have fared pretty well down there. They've got Millbrae for the season out the way, and they can concentrate on other stuff, starting with Melrose at home on Saturday.
Well, everyone was always going to dissect the performances of the 4 Super 6 teams who were put into the Premiership and the 2 that went into National 1 division, but Watsonians went to Kelso, were beaten 36-31.
Yeah, great result for Kelso. That was always a possibility. Kelso, they've just carried on to me where they left off last season. They looked like they had a really structured, really well thought out pre-season, bit of sevens, but three proper pre-season games, one of which of course was a border league game. And yeah, there was always the possibility that Watsonians could slip up there, and slip up they did. And Kelso off to a great start, bonus point win at home with some decent-ish looking fixtures to come.
Heriots, well, they came to Melrose. On paper it looked like a comfortable win for the Nails against a weakened Melrose team, but it was far from a walkover. The result was 35-22 to Heriots, but you were at the game. Southern Knights no longer, of course, it's just Melrose now, but most of the team from Melrose were playing National 1 last season.
Oh yeah, and some weren't even playing National 1. Let's be honest, it was a put together Melrose team due to the massive unavailability stroke injury list, and they really dug in. They gave it their all. They left it all out there. I was never really that convinced throughout the game that Melrose would win. It always looked like Heriots could up it if they needed to, but a great credit to Melrose because they stuck in massively with a hugely understrength team. They didn't take anything from the game, which is a slight disappointment. And Heriots move on with the 5 points in the bag, and they'll maybe be a wee bit disappointed that they didn't make lighter work of it, but that's more credit to Melrose than a slur on Heriots. Melrose really did dig in well. Some of the performances from individual players, they really put their hand up. Guys like Will Owen, for example, the prop. Now Will, I would say maybe flirted with the first team over the last 2 or 3 years. He's had a couple of games and he's been injured and he's been out of the picture and that kind of stuff. It was almost a coming of age performance by him, and Big Zen, they trucked it up for 76, 77 minutes as the 2 props. So yeah, I'd like to see Will get a run of games in the team now based on that performance. If he can put himself about like he did on Saturday, then there's a player there.
Always nice to discover new players coming in, and he's not in the Borders, he's a Heriots player, but Thomas Glendinning, I was very impressed with him. He got his 2 tries out of nothing really, because looking back at it you think, well, maybe he should have been tackled, but the power, he made it so difficult for them to actually get him down, and eventually he got over the line twice.
Oh yeah, all power, Stuart. The Heriots look like they've got a brilliant acquisition there. Of course he's come as an established Super Series performer from the Ayrshire Bulls, but yeah, he slotted in seamlessly. It was the perfect debut, and yeah, I interviewed him after post-match. He spoke well, impressive young man, but yeah, that put me up at close quarters with him, and yeah, I can see how he powered his way over the line. He's pretty well put together. And
of course we must mention as well, there could easily have been 2 points for Melrose. There was an interception at the end by Rolly Brett, and it was called back. Looking at the video evidence, of course we don't have such a thing at the match itself, but it looked a pretty borderline case, let's say.
Yeah, Rolly Brett, another player, absolutely outstanding on Saturday. He made the offside line.
Great defensive work.
Oh, great! And he's not the biggest. He's not the biggest centre, but he really was impressive. Puts his body on the line. Great footwork, all round skill set. Brilliant performance by him, and justifiably made the offside line team of the week. I was right in line, and in real time, he looked a mile off. So that's what potentially the officials see as well. But if you're telling me, having watched it back, he was borderline, then that's unfortunate. But that would a try for him would have capped off a fine individual display, that's for sure.
I think they certainly deserved the 2 points. It's just one of those things that sometimes you don't get it.
That's it. I think Melrose would have been in dreamland, to be honest, if they'd come away with that, with 2 points against the Harriets team that, like Ayr, have been widely spoken about by myself included. I think they would have been absolutely overjoyed with 2 points. But I think they can still take a great deal of heart from the performance, even though they didn't get anything. But it'll probably be a different proposition away at Mullaney Park. This will maybe be a wee bit more of an acid test, if you like, as to where they are.
Yeah, more on that later, but Selkirk lost 40-10 to Marr, and as we'll hear later from Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson, the score didn't reflect the match. The Suitors could have added to their 2 tries that they got if they'd taken their chances. Nevertheless, a 4-1 ratio on the scoreboard, and it'll go down as a disappointing afternoon at Fullerton.
Yeah, certainly from a scoreline point of view, but I've heard other people say that the scoreline didn't fully reflect the full game. I think Selkirk did okay in certain aspects of the game, but yeah, it's a difficult place to go down there. Fullerton, Selkirk won't be the only team to go down there this season and come away with nothing, and they'll be looking to get back on the horse against Glasgow Hawks at home this weekend.
Well, at Rayburn Place, after running Hawick close on a number of occasions over the last few seasons, Accies finally got over the line. They won that 28 points to 22, and after losing their last game of the season, the Greens tasting defeat again on the first day of the season. And in recent times, back-to-back defeats for Hawick is something we haven't actually ever needed to mention.
No, we haven't. There was always the possibility that they were going to find it tricky up there. First day of the season, always a venture into the unknown, playing against any team to an extent. Although Accies have a lot of familiar faces. Hawick, new coaching regime, of course. A couple of players no longer around, Dalton Redpath, for example. So yeah, it was always going to be a tricky assignment. I think Accies will be quite pleased that they got to play Hawick at this time of year rather than in the depths of winter. But as you mentioned, Stuart, Accies have run Hawick close and have given Hawick problems. One of the very few teams that have given Hawick problems in recent times. But yeah, Hawick will be back. There's no doubt about it.
The other game in the Premiership, that was a comfortable win for Glasgow Hawks at home to Musselburgh at their venue of Ballgrey.
Yeah, and we spoke about it in the preview show last week. They're in a clutch of teams, and there are several that will be looking to take points off each other. I mean, Hawks go to Selkirk this weekend. There's your case in point. But yeah, I think Glasgow Hawks will be absolutely delighted with that. We've spoken on numerous occasions about the turnover of players that they have, and yeah, to come away with a bonus point win, rack up a few tries, I think Andy Hill will be delighted.
National 1 started, and Gala were the only Borders winners, 32-19, a good result for them, all 5 points, and they certainly put the wrongs of last year in that same fixture to bed. Oh yeah,
I was going to say exactly that. That was a game they should have won against Highland at home last season, but that's a brilliant start to the season for Gala. We've spoken about them being in transition for a wee while now, and they lost some experienced campaigners and some big names, if you like, the likes of Tamasitis, etc. So that's a brilliant opening day result against a team that falls into the no mugs category and are seasoned performers, seasoned top half of the table performers in that division in Highland.
And Highland are beginning to travel as well, because they got some great results last season on the road.
Oh yeah, like I say, they're proven operators at that level, and if you finish above Highland in a National 1 table, you're going to be there or thereabouts.
Well, Jed-Forest, they were 28-12 up at half-time, cruising with a try bonus in the bag. It ended 32-28 against Biggar. They didn't score in the second half. Biggar scored 20, and by all accounts, when it was 28-27 in injury time, they turned down an easy penalty in front of the post to run the ball. Lost possession, up go Biggar the other end, get the match.
Yeah, by all accounts it's a wee bit of a coach killer, that one, but in as much as people will look at the half-time score, then the full-time score, and say that looks like a disaster, the flip side of that is if at 2:30, if you'd offered a lot of Jed fans, I think a 2 points away from Biggar at this time of year, first day of the season, I think they're a bit in your hand off, so bittersweet to some extent.
Yeah, because remember, if Jed had got all 5 points there, that would have actually equalled their total for the whole season, last season, albeit obviously in the Premiership.
Oh yeah, and without reading too much into this result, Jed appear to be in a much better place this season than they were last season. Of course, they're down a level, but they've many more numbers at training. They've got a coaching setup in place there now. Mike Dalgetty's in and around the place, and that's never going to do any harm. So not a disastrous opening for Jed by any stretch of the imagination.
And there'll be a lot of clubs going to Biggar. They're not going to get anywhere near 2 points.
Oh no, let's not forget Biggar have got Scott McClymondt, one of the best sevens in the Premiership in recent times. He's moved there from Selkirk, and they've got Rhys Cullen. Now Rhys Cullen should be able to absolutely carve it back at his previous club, given where he's all been in the meantime, the levels he's reached. So like I say, Biggar's a tough place to go anyway, and it'll be a tough place for a lot of teams this season. Not a disaster for Jed.
Well, Peebles were always going to be up against it, against Stirling County, Super 6 champions, who were playing rugby 3 levels above Peebles last season, but only 15-6 at half-time, which was encouraging. It did end 46-6 though, but you would expect Stirling that they're going to be piling up the points throughout the season with the strength that they have.
It's almost like exactly as we said about Currie. The fixtures have fell brilliantly, in my opinion, for Peebles there. Stirling, many of myself included, have talking about them as being, resounding favourites for this particular division. Get them out the way, away from home, early doors, and if you get beat, pretty much everybody's going to get beat up there, you would imagine, or most people will, and it gives you a chance to see where you are, get rid of that game and target some other games.
Well, in the other National 1 matches, Glasgow Accies beat Dundee 52-19. GHA posted a big win at Boroughmuir 48-20, and it looks like Boroughmuir haven't been able to retain some of their Super 6 players, unlike Stirling County, to go down like that at home. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Did fancy Stirling to finish above Boroughmuir this season, but I thought Boroughmuir would. But GHA, are again decent, very decent at this level. But yeah, that result will have, the Boroughmuir being beat at home will have given hope to some of the other teams in the division, no more so than Jed, who play them at Riverside this weekend. Well, National 2, 3 and 4 didn't have any games last weekend, but there was the National League Cup. It ended Preston Lodge 26, Berwick 36, and again Preston Lodge were 19-0 up quite early on, and then Berwick came back. Pennypit, of course, has a big hill, and Berwick were playing up the hill in the first half. But my goodness, they certainly turned it round in the second half to win 36-26 and repeat that success that they had at Preston Lodge, the big relegation match. Yeah, that's right. We've heard before about 19-point wins, but I don't know, I've never heard about a 19-point hill before, but yeah, that could have had something to do with it. But yeah, I was actually astonished when I was seeing the results coming through on my phone, or the up-to-date scores. I was astonished to see Berwick 19-0 down, given who's back playing for them now, Hindhawk and the Thompson brothers, etc. So, but yeah, obviously great character shown there, 19-0 down, to come back and win, to rack up that many points in, almost in the second, or some in the first half, and then a big amount of points in the second half. That's a great result for Berwick. OK, let's have a look at the fixtures then in the Premiership tomorrow. We start with our commentary game, which Dale Clancy and David Ferguson will be covering for us. Mansfield Park is the venue. Hawick against Marr. Here's Hawick head coach Graeme Hogg.
We are really looking forward to welcoming Marr to Mansfield Park this weekend to get our campaign at home off and running. Last week's defeat to Edinburgh Accies, probably upon reflection, it was a fair result. Thought Accies were excellent in attack. We didn't help ourselves. We basically defended for the first 17 minutes. As I say, credit to Bertie and his squad for how they came at us in that first half. As I say, we didn't help ourselves with poor exits and some poor defensive sets that we have obviously looked at this week, and we are looking to rectify this week. Marr was massively impressed with reviewing their game against Selkirk from last week. Big physical pack, which is what you come to expect from Marr, and obviously playing a little bit of rugby with Colin Sturgeon at 12, just being that little bit further out and just giving them that little bit more width in attack. So we're looking forward to the challenge. We know that we need to be a lot better than what we were last week in certain facets of the game. I think, as I said, last week is probably a fair reflection of how our pre-season has went. Some really good stuff in there, but obviously plenty to work on. So this week we've unfortunately again not had our troubles to seek with some more injuries in key positions. We've unfortunately lost Marcus Brogan for a sustained period after another unfortunate ankle injury, and there's some doubts over Sam Frizzle and Matt Atkinson in the second row. But as I say, it'll probably be a makeshift second and back row this week, but we are where we are. We're not making that excuses. We're going to put everything we can into our performance this week, and hopefully get our campaign at home off and running with a win at Mansfield Park.
So Currie took that long unbeaten home record of Hawick's at the end of last season in that playoff cup final, and with Marr's winning start to the season, they're going to come down to Mansfield Park with a great deal of confidence. Hawick, of course, will be out to put things right from last week, but a tasty looking fixture.
It is a good looking fixture. Marr coming to Mansfield, they've struggled to score tries there in recent times. I think of one game last season where they never even looked like scoring, so they'll need to put that right. But yeah, they're coming up against the Hawick team who are not as strong as they were last season, I think, if we're being honest. But Hawick are a different proposition at home to almost any team. The place has got an aura about it. So it's certainly not, if Marr are thinking they're coming in there having won last week and Hawick got beat, that Marr's going to come up with some kind of cakewalk, then I don't see that being the case. But yeah, Hawick will be looking to get looking to get a win on the board. They've got Heriots next week, Currie away the week after that, Watsonians the week after that. So if they don't pick up something against Marr, then there's some tricky fixtures to come.
And the first time really Hawick's been put under a wee bit of pressure. How do you think they're going to approach this mentally?
I think they've won that many rugby matches over the course of the last couple of seasons that a blip here or there is not going to see a massive crumble. But I think all realists in Hawick would have understood that this season was going to be different. They weren't going to beat everybody. Ayr are in town and Heriots are in town and all these kind of teams, and Currie look like they've strengthened and Marr look decent as well. So it was never going to be the case that Hawick were going to steamroller everybody as they have done previously. So. Yeah, but they've got plenty about them still, plenty of top players, and yeah, they'll be looking to get a W on the board this week. Feel for Marcus Brogan, he just can't seem to catch a break in terms of injuries. He's a great young player, and it's really sad to hear because he is a cracking young player. I remember watching him as an under 18, great prospect, and yeah, just can't seem to shake the injuries, unfortunately.
Well, Kelso won at home, as we mentioned, 36-31 last weekend against Watsonians. They now travel to Musselburgh, where they drew last season. Director of Rugby at Kelso is Neil Hinnigan.
Good result last week at home to Watsonians, picking up 5 points. That'll help with the confidence for going up to Musselburgh this weekend, which will be a tough match. It's a notoriously tough place to get results at Stony Hill. Musselburgh lost last week away to Hawks. I think they'll have a few things to rectify and put right this week, so expecting a backlash from that. So we'll have that to contend with. We also have a few players out from last week. Dan Gamble is unavailable. Grant Shields has a shoulder knock. Andy Tate has pulled his calf and could be out for several weeks. Oscar Davies been unwell, so he just misses out to give him time to recover. And then incoming is Angus McGregor will start on the loose head. Terry Logan moves starting to the tight head, and Ashton Asante comes on to the replacements. We also welcome Isaac Coates from the Scottish Academy, so we're pleased to have him along training this week, and he'll take a place on the bench and hopefully he'll get some game time. With the rest of the backs, Robbie Tweedy returns to the wing with Dwayne Paterson moving to 10. So a little bit of a shuffle about, but still a fairly settled squad overall, and the players know what's expected of them from Nicky and Bruce and so on. So it's about trying to progress and get a better performance than last week would be ideal, and then hopefully the result can take care of itself. But a very, very tough assignment at Musselburgh. So again, hopefully it'll be good weather and it'll be a good game, but hopefully we can pick up some more points.
Another intriguing one.
It is. I really fancy Kelso though, Stuart. I have to say, it just has that feel about it like it did in the second half, almost the post-Christmas element of last season, where there just looks to be a buzz about the place, and you see Kelso going into games and you see them winning games. Neil's right, it's a tough place to go, Musselburgh, but I think it's what you mentioned there, the strength and depth that Kelso have now. Shields and Gamble are unavailable or injured. In come Logan, in come McGregor, Asante on the bench. They've got some depth at prop there. Dwayne Paterson going at 10 this week will be interesting to see how that fares, but he's one of the best all-round rugby players in the league, so I'm sure that'll be fine. And yeah, Isaac Coates coming in as well. He's a good young player. So yeah, Kelso just in a good place at the moment. And again, looking at the fixtures, Musselburgh away, if they can get 4 or 5 points there, Selkirk at home, Glasgow Hawks away. There's points there to be had, Stuart.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week. These are the matches that you have to get your points, because there's going to be a big scrap. There's no doubt about it. In the bottom three of them go down from the Premiership, 3 down from National 1 as well. But if you can get results over teams that are similar in standard to yourselves, then the other games will kind of take care of themselves. But getting this good start as well psychologically be fantastic.
Oh, and momentum as well. You know, a win here, Selkirk at home next week, that'll be a ding dong. But they can't so fancy themselves against anybody at Poinder, including Selkirk, and then Hawks away. Points on the board, momentum potentially there, and who knows where they can go. But in saying that, you're absolutely right, Musselburgh will be targeting this game as well. That's the nature of the beast this season.
Well, Melrose travel for the first time this season to Millennium Park, where they haven't been for a while, to take on Currie. Co-head coach Scott Wight.
Last week, obviously, I didn't quite go to plan, albeit look, I thought the performance was good, and it gives people a real taste in terms of the players of what the Premiership is going to be about. For a lot of things that were really positive in terms of the way and the manner that we scored some of our tries, to then on the back of that, the way that we conceded some was obviously disappointing. The boys have worked extremely hard this week in terms of, you probably kind of go to a harder place in terms of in the league. Last year's champions away from home, who have obviously been beat last week as well, so they'll be really keen to get their championship up and running as well. So it's going to be difficult. We believe we've prepped really well this week in terms of what we've looked at in areas of the field that we can really get at, which is quite exciting. Team-wise, Craig Fairbairn misses out through injury from last week, so that's obviously really quite disappointing. On the plus side, Jack Dobie back fit in the pack, so he'll probably start on the bench in front. I thought Will and Zen were obviously excellent last week. We've been released Jerry Blythe-Lafferty from Edinburgh, which is great to see. I dare say the junior academy guys coming into the fold, and then the back line will be decided tonight. There's obviously a few boys back in terms of Matthew Klein, Hamish Weir, Matty Bertram, which is excellent. The guys that obviously played last week, they're all available apart from Morgan Gabe, and then our 2 Australians are arriving this week with Gav Wood, so they might feature at the weekend as well. So backline will be picked, what we think best. We've obviously got an idea, but it's not finalised yet. Boys are up for the challenge, and I'm sure it'll be a good game up at Millennium Park on Saturday. Scott
Wight speaking yesterday, of course, and good to see some of the guys like Dobie coming back as well, and the Australians are on the way.
Yes, by the sounds of things, Melrose are going to be stronger this week. That's a blow about Fairbairn. Him and the other 2 back rowers really stood up last week, so that's a bit of a blow. Dobie's a class operator. Dobie in the Melrose ranks is one of what you'd call the true Super Series players, so good to have him back. But Scott's right, the 2 props, and I mentioned it before, the 2 props went brilliantly last week, and Jerry Blythe-Lafferty, he's a great young prospect, so a bit more strength certainly on the bench this week. Melrose, and Gav Wood coming back for a period, he's a
that was a nice bonus, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely, and the bigger bonus that he's bringing 2 of his teammates with him from Australia, so that can only help Melrose. But as I said before, this is more of an acid test to me. Last week they got really stuck in, but it was at home, sunny day, first day of the season, everybody in great fettle. This will be a different challenge for me. Currie away is one of the toughest assignments in Scottish club rugby. So if Melrose again, like last week, if they can come away with anything, then absolutely hallelujah.
Well, Selkirk, they're at home this week following their defeat at Marr. They take on Glasgow Hawks, who did a number on Musselburgh last week, as we mentioned. Here's head coach at Selkirk, Sesh Henderson.
After last week, we're not too despondent after the result. The scoreline doesn't really suggest how the game actually flowed, because we had some really good passes to play. In fact, we maybe should have scored at least a couple of tries. However, there was a couple of focus areas to work on, which we have been at training to bring on Saturday. We need to really bring a lot of energy and physicality, because Hawks, they're really good strong runners, strong pack, but the back 3 are pretty strong as well. So look, we need to work on that and how we're going to adapt to try and cut their space down. Some in our attack, we just need to try and work harder and get our shapes working This week, we've got Josh Welsh, Ryan Cottrell and James Bett back in the squad, so they bring that little bit more experience and more energy. We've got a bit of balanced squad this week. We're really looking forward to our first home game against the Hawks, and if we bring a 90-minute game, then we'll not be far away getting that W.
Well, you're down there for Rugby Radio tomorrow at Philip Hall. What are you expecting?
A battle between two pretty evenly matched teams, I would have thought. Selkirk finished 9th in the Premier last season. Glasgow Hawks finished 8th, so it stands to reason that these two teams will be targeting each other. Absolutely. Why would you not? Selkirk will be looking to pick up a victory, but Glasgow Hawks will be, looking to come down and upset the apple cart as well. So, but yeah, as Sesh said there, if Cottrell's back, Welsh is back, Bett's back, that gives much greater strength and depth to any team. Cottrell in particular is a wonderful player. So yes, Selkirk very much will be gunning for Glasgow Hawks tomorrow. So it should be a cracker of a game.
And we'll be following with interest the home form of Selkirk. Yeah,
it's been patchy over recent years. The season before last, they were doing great things on the road, and then they were slipping up to teams that they would expect to beat at Philip Hall. But yeah, if they can turn that place into a bit of a fortress, then it's all about picking up however many games that you need to pick up, and picking up bonus points as well. But let's not forget, bonus points could be absolutely crucial this season in the quest for some teams. Their objective has to be to finish 9th or above, and I think probably, if they've got their hands on their heart, both these clubs fall into that bracket.
Well, shameless plug for the programme tomorrow. Rugby Radio on at 2:30, but we're going on until 5:30 from now on. So plenty of time for analysis, post-match reaction from around the country as well. And at 7 o'clock tonight, don't forget we have this special programme direct from Edinburgh, from the Hive Stadium, which features the international women's match between Scotland and Wales. That's on at 7 o'clock between then and 9:30. Now, Watsonians against Ayr has the makings of something really, really special. Hugh Brown's going to be down there for us at Marr side. What do you think he'll be witnessing tomorrow?
I think you'll witness the highest standard of club rugby this weekend in Scotland. Stands to reason. Two Super Series clubs coming back into the Premiership based on last week's results. The smart money has to be on Ayr, but I'm going to say that pretty much every weekend this season. But yeah, Watsonians can potentially cause them problems if they've got, if they're fully loaded. They'll look to put that result last weekend to one side. Plenty of teams will lose at Kelso this season, so they'll be looking to stamp a mark against Ayr. But yeah, you got to fancy Ayr, Stuart, and they'll look to kick on from what was a decent win with a bit of pressure on them last weekend. The Super Series champions against the Premiership champions, and I think they've dispatched Currie reasonably comfortably. Currie have given a good account of themselves, but yeah, Ayr will be looking to kick on from that as well.
Another big game in the city, of course. Two unbeaten sides, Accies against Heriots, this one at Golden Acre, so it's the other way around. Heriots against Accies, but the two of them, again, they go head to head, and they win at each other's grounds. You just never know with them.
Yeah, that's right. I said the other game might be the highest standard, but this will possibly be the most entertaining because of the way the two teams play.
Well, let's have a look at National 1 now. Gala are at GHA. They're travelling to Braidholme. Their head coach is Euan Robbie.
Yeah, delighted to get that victory. First up, bonus point win, 31 points to 19 versus a pretty decent Highland outfit. We started the game well, scoring a maul try within the first 5 minutes. The first half tended to be a bit nip and tuck affair. We went in 14-12 at the break, and there was a lot of feeling there that if we just had a bit better continuity about our attack, we could have been further ahead going into the break. A real positive was our defence. The guys defended well, and this was really typified by Murray Wilson, who had a great game all round, but in defence he was really good for us. There was a few other guys who had man-of-the-match performances there who could have been picked themselves, but our defence is what paid dividends when we came out after half-time. A bit more patient, going for the ball when we could instead of trying to get it every time, and that paid off when we got a turnover ball and went further up the pitch, and that was the point we started to pull away for Highland a little bit. The same scenario happened as last year. We were points ahead, and then they applied a lot of pressure on, but we were really happy with the way guys just they dug in. They learned from last year. They didn't let the pressure get to them and just kept defending. And yeah, we kept them out for the end there. And moving on to this week coming, we're going to GHA. They will pose a slightly different threat. They're a good outfit. They've certainly got a bit of pace out wide. Unfortunately, an unavailability in Robbie Irvine, but we've got Doug Weir coming from the bench from last week. He's going to start at 7 for us, with Finn Thompson coming into the bench there. We also have a late fitness test on Jack Niven, player that had a good game last week, so we're really hoping he pulls through that fitness test. We're really looking forward to get going. We're excited to get going again back in the paddock after a good week's training, because we're quite excited. We're looking to see where we can go with this group this season, so this will be a really good test for us on Saturday.
As he says, a big challenge, an informed GHA at Braidholme. This will really test them.
Oh, definitely. A lot could come down to away form for Gala this season, because they'll certainly pick up wins at home. But yeah, GHA, brilliant result for them, as we mentioned earlier, against Boroughmuir last week. Many, myself included, didn't see that coming. So yeah, GHA will go into this in great spirits. But yeah, Gala, again, looking at the fixtures, they've got Jed at home the week after, Dundee, who lost heavily last weekend, away, then Peebles at home. So again, there's points there on the table for Gala. So again, might be a sense that if they can take anything from this tricky looking trip this weekend, then bonus.
I think it's nice as well hearing coaches talk about people that 2 years ago we weren't talking about. They weren't even on the radar. So the likes of Jack Niven there and Kieran McLaren, people like that. And that's great to see these youngsters coming through.
Oh, definitely building from within. If you're from the borders and you're from a town and you've got youngsters coming through and you see them flourishing and blossoming into first team regular players, it gives everybody in the club a real sense of pride, and that's what's happening at Gala for sure. They've got a good looking system there, and there'll be more young players to come.
Jed-Forest back at home to Boroughmuir for the first home game of the season in National 1 for them. They have to be targeting 5 points from this after the disappointment last weekend at Biggar. Here's head coach Stuart Johnson.
Got our first home game of that one at home at Boroughmuir, and looking to bounce back from what was a disappointing defeat away to Biggar on Saturday after being 28-12 up at half time, and unfortunately we didn't score a point in the second half and got beat. But came away with a losing bonus point and a try bonus point, so 2 bonus points, which is usually a difficult place to go at Hartree Mill, so I don't think there'll be many teams that will go there and pick up a result. But moving forward to this Saturday, I say it's all about us and getting our game plan right and imposing that, as we did for 40 minutes against Biggar, but trying to do that for hopefully 80 minutes, and we should come away with a result. Should be a fairly settled side on Saturday as well. Matty Palmer's back available this week, so he may come back into the squad. Apart from that, it'll be very similar to what started against Biggar on Saturday, so just try to get some consistency there.
And this is a match that they really need to win.
It's hard to say for me, Stuart, to be honest, because I don't know, with my hand on my heart, I don't know what kind of side Boroughmuir had out last weekend. If they had a few missing, if they've got guys to come back, it still might be a tricky assignment this for Jed. But I think one of the key word there that was used for me by Stuart was similar. They've got a similar squad this week now. We didn't sit here last season and say that. It was a case of who
certainly didn't.
Who can they get? Is there somebody? Can they pull somebody out the pub? Who's available? And they certainly didn't have a similar side week on week. So even that is a real plus and a sign that Jed are moving in the right direction with a much stronger setup than last season. So yeah, based on last weekend's results, Jed will be looking to win this, but yeah, if Jed can pick up a win, 4 points, even 5 points to add to the 2 that they picked up at Biggar, that would represent a really strong start to the season for me.
I just have this feeling that they're going to do well.
Yeah, I hope so. Obviously, without getting too biased about it, but yeah, if they can pick up a win of any kind this weekend, then to add it to the 2 points last week, they move on. Next week they've got Gala away. That's going to be a tasty encounter. Then Highland at home. So again, like all the teams, they'll be looking at particular fixtures, saying, yeah, we can get something from that, and that'll certainly be the case for this weekend, based on what happened last weekend.
And as you rightly say as well, I mean, Boroughmuir last week, disappointing result for them. Is that the best they've got, or are they going to get people coming back?
That's it. I don't know who was available, unavailable. There might be Super 6 guys that were on the treatment table, or might have been holiday, or might have been away. That's the thing. You just don't know. It's club rugby now at the end of the day, so there might be 6 or 7 changes, and that might make all the difference. Who knows?
Peebles then, they're playing at the Gates against Glasgow Accies. I spoke earlier this week with their head coach, Graeme Paterson.
we turned around at half time 15-6 down, so I mean we were very much in the game at that point, and we tried to focus on the performance. We knew it was going to be hard. I mean, absolutely. I mean, 11 of their starting team were part of the Stirling Wolves team from last season, so yeah, you're playing against a quality side. I would say we probably defended a hell of a lot more than we did attack-wise, so but again, in that respect, we did pretty well. I felt, looking, reviewing the video, they were big physical. If you're playing and training at the higher level, that's what you come up against, and that's what we did. But we're not disheartened, not at all. Those guys were well conditioned and well skilled. When they took opportunities, they took them and converted them, and that's the difference really at that level. Individually, I thought, yeah, they were probably better individuals, but speaking to certainly one of their coaches after the game, he actually felt we were a better unit, we were a better team, we actually played better as a team, which is good to hear and good to see as well. The guys are disappointed. Obviously, nobody's happy about losing a game. That's that's just sport, isn't it? You don't go out to lose a game. We went out there to try and win the game. So yes, they're disappointed, but we tried to keep it as positive as we could and say, we defended pretty well. We just need to improve, and hopefully we'll get more chances in attack-wise, as we play other teams, throughout the league.
Because it's a big season in the Premiership, a big season in National 1 as well, because in both divisions, 3 go down. And in your case, there's only 10 teams there.
And that's one of the points, I think, that I've spoken to the guy, or certainly to people, speaking about, to turn over 40% of a league in one season is a pretty big chunk, and whether that could have been done slightly differently, but that's what we've got, and we've just got to get on with it and just kind of try our best to make sure that we are still in that division. We never know, we might be in the one above, but going by Saturday's performance, I think we know which team's probably most likely to be in that one going above, but we want to be a National 1 side.
Glasgow Accies at home at the Gites next. They beat Dundee, I think it was, by about 50 odd points. You've experienced Glasgow Accies before. You've got them at the Gites. It'll be a different experience for them as well.
I think we are confident at home that we can make that place very difficult for every side that comes there, and that's one of our targets, is to make sure that we are winning our home games, certainly all of them. Stirling might be a one that everybody kind of writes off a wee bit based on where they are, but we believe that we can win all our other home games there, and the last time we played Glasgow Accies, we beat them twice in the league, and that was the league the season they got promoted, so there's nothing to fear, and I think we're better than that now.
And Graeme, as he says, good record against Accies.
Yeah, they do have a good record against Accies, and yeah, I think he's right to write off last weekend's encounter up at Bridgehaugh. Most clubs will struggle up there this season. Glasgow Accies, they might be the dark horses in that division this year. That was a great win for them last weekend, so it's not going to be easy for Peebles this weekend. Ryan Grant and the other coaches are doing good things there with the Accies, but yeah, Peebles at home. Graeme's right. They're well within their rights to expect to win their home games. Absolutely, given where they are and what's coming through the system and just the kind of the whole place that the club are in at the moment. So yeah, they'll be looking to chalk up a victory, as will Glasgow Hawks, and it's too early in the season for me to say who I think is going to come away with the spoils here. But yeah, Peebles will be looking to pick up a victory, definitely. And then of course next weekend it's the big one, if you're from a Peebles persuasion or if you're from a bigger persuasion, because that's a massive game next weekend against Bigger.
And it's interesting because we're already falling into our own trap that we said we would never do. We said, we'll probably wait for 6 games until we actually analyse things. We're already analysing it. We can't help ourselves, really, can we?
Oh, and that's the nature of the beast. It would be pretty dull if we sat here for the first 6 weeks and didn't nail our colours to the mast. But yeah, this having said, I struggle to call this particular one, but that's because I do. It's a tough game to call this. This could go either way.
A couple of other tasty games as well. Dundee against Bigger. You would expect Bigger to be too strong for Dundee, but again, we don't know how strong Glasgow Accies were and how weak Dundee were, so it's going to be interesting. And then Highland against Stirling County. That's got all the makings of a really intriguing tie. On the 3G service, Highland traditionally very good at home.
Yeah, that will be a good occasion up there. Actually, good place to go and play rugby, good place to go and watch rugby. So yeah, Highland will have their dander up. You know what you're going to get when you're a visiting team up there. But Stirling probably with the quality in the ranks, the Ross McKnights, etc., probably just will have too much, I would have thought.
On to National 2 then, and after winning in the National League Cup pool game at Preston Lodge, coming back from 19-0 to win 36-26, Berwick now face Falkirk. Here's head coach Paul Pringle.
This week we'll travel away to Falkirk in the first league game of the season, and what we know will be a tricky tie given the standard they set last season. No doubt they'll be out for promotion, but we're coming on the back of what was a really good performance away to Preston Lodge. We were really rusty in the early stages of the game, and credit to Preston Lodge, they certainly came out the blocks firing. We were 26-7 down at half time. I think it's credit to the lads that we had that discussion at half time, and they knew what they needed to do. We made a couple of changes, and they really made a big impact. So no, it was good just to show that the work we've done on fitness during the pre-season came to fruition in that game, and the lads just showed a kind of calmness to collect themselves and then regather and get the result. So that was very pleasing to start the season off. Falkirk, they like to play a wide, expansive game at good pace. So we've picked the team accordingly. Ali Grieve returns to the squad, so that's great. Ali's a pretty seasoned player. He knows how to lead the team, and he's been around the block a few times, so just that experience is brilliant to have in there. In terms of the rest of the selections, so Cam Rogerson will move and start in at scrum half this week, with Adam Harvey receiving an ankle injury last week. Ben Simmons will continue at 10. Ben showed last week just what a classy player he is, and he's a bit of an old head on young shoulders. Angus Satterson moves in to start at 15, very much in the same mould as Ben. We talk about rugby IQ a lot, and these guys have got to bucket loads, so that really helps with the structure and the shape of our game. On the bench, we'll have Carl Gullen and Jason Gerwood. The props, we've got Rafa Kreminski continues. He had 50 minutes last week and really just showing what a kind of hard working good 7 he is, so I'm pleased to see him involved again. And Jordan Jackson, we all know Jordan from the end of last season, what an exciting talent he is. So it's a strong squad. Unfortunately, Nathan Melrose took a head knock last week, so he's going through that graduated return to play protocol, but Ryan Wilson will move up from 8 to 2, and that allows the space for Ali to come back in. So tough tie to start off the season. One we're looking forward to. We want to keep building on what we've put in place during the pre-season, and all being well, we would hope to get a result up there.
That's a very hard place to go, isn't it? Sunny side, and playing Falkirk, who love to throw the ball about, a bit like Berwick as well. Again, a good fixture.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Berwick look a bit stronger than they did last season with the guys that have, the Berwick lads that have gone back to the club. But yeah, this is probably as tough an assignment as it gets in this division. Falkirk finished just behind Peebles last season, tucked in there in second, and yeah, as you say, they give the ball a bit of air, and they've got some good players. Harry Russell, the likes of him, and we've seen in the inter-district championship, Falkirk have got some good players. Maybe guys that could play, in divisions higher. So yeah, tough gig for Berwick this season to open their league campaign, and we speak all the time about the bus journeys and the lengths they need to go to, etc. But another instance that if they go there and they don't come away with too much, which they might, who knows, but if they don't, then it's probably the toughest place to go in the league, or one of the toughest places to chalk it off and move on.
Of course, this time last year at Sunnyside, it was 38-14 to Falkirk. At Scremerston, high-scoring game. I remember Berwick were in front for a lot of that. Lost 48-35 in the end. So, as I say, both teams love to play rugby.
Oh yeah, and the fans up there this weekend, if they get served up anything like that encounter, they'll be licking their lips.
Well, it's the return of the East League this season, and taking care of business for us and every week is Euan Welsh.
The East League Roundup with Euan Welsh.
Hello, yes, the Scottish Rugby East Leagues get underway this weekend, with Langham, Hawick Harlequins, Earlston, Hawick Lundeen, Dance and Gala YM all representing the borders across the 3 East League divisions. Let's start off with Langham, who are the region's only representation in East League 1. Last season saw the men from the Muckletown just manage to survive, as they finished third from the bottom, with the bottom 2 being relegated. They'll now be looking to build on that, but also adapt to life without standoff Nathan Smith. The former captain has been one of the key players over recent seasons, however he is now away travelling. Langham's campaign gets underway with a home tie at Milton against Murrayfield Wanderers, and Langham coach Craig Hislop knows that it will be a challenging encounter.
This Saturday we start our league campaign against Murrayfield Wanderers, who came down from the league above last season, so don't really know what's got to be ahead of us. Haven't played them for a number of years. A few local connections with boys that have played for Langham before. For us, we've had a pretty good pre-season, in 4 matches, wins against Hawick Lundeen, Hawick Quins, Annan. On Friday night we played Wigton and took a defeat 36-12. Very physical game, which probably toughened us up a bit and brought us back to reality, and hopefully we can learn for that on Saturday. Team-wise, our captain Nathan Smith headed across to Australia for a year. Should be a big miss. Captain this season is our front row hooker Chris Tate, who's joined this season with Tom Hope coming back down the road for Hawick, which is a big boost to the squad. Also got a few lads, one of them come across playing football, come back to play rugby again, which is a great addition to our back line. And most of the squad is the same as last season. We've had a good week. This week we had George Graeme up again to take us through some forward drills, focusing on our scrum and our set piece. So we're looking forward to the weekend and getting rolling again.
Well, into East League 2, and Hawick Harlequins are back looking to continue to build on their mid-table finish last season. Coached by Derek Armstrong, the Quins get their league campaign underway at home against Royal High, who have dropped down from the league above. Previewing Saturday's match, along with the upcoming season, is the new club captain, Liam Graham.
We look forward to starting off our East League 2 campaign at home to Royal High. Although we've not had many games in pre-season this year, we feel like it's been a positive one for the club, getting many players into training compared to seasons gone by, and feel like we have got a couple of new recruits from Hawick Youth. We feel like they're strong additions to the squad. Looking forward to the game this week. It's a bit of an unknown first game of the season against a team that came from the league above, so we don't really know how that's impacted them this season. They might come down strong, we don't know. But obviously coming down from East League 1, we have to take them serious. Although we do back ourselves at home with a big squad hopefully available to us this week. 2 new debuts in Fraser Casson and Anthony Amos. I feel like they'll be key additions to the squad for the season going forward. Although coming up against maybe a tough squad this week, we feel like we can back ourselves at home against anyone this season and hopefully walk away with a win.
Let's dive into East League 3 now, where there's 4 teams from the Borders, so plenty border derbies throughout the season. Hawick Lundeen were unfortunate when, despite thinking that they had done enough in East League 2 last season to stay up, the league restructuring has saw them relegated to the 3rd Division. They will certainly be fired up for this season, and they get underway with a home game against Edinburgh Northern. Let's hear from the club's Vice President, Kieran Murphy.
Pre-season has went very well for us. We've had 2 15s games and a 7s tournament, picking up the Volunteer Shield at our own tournament, which is great for us with the tournament be back up and running again to win something on that day. We played Langham the week after that. We had 26 boys available and they all got good game time. Sadly, lost the game 28-15 after leading for most of the match, but the main objective was to get everybody a game and a bit of minutes in their legs. So last weekend we played Gala seconds over at Gala, and 24 boys available again, all got good game time, and we managed to come away 38-26 winners. So that was really positive against a well-drilled side, full of boys pushing for potentially to play for Gala first. So that showed a good bit of fight from the lads just to see that game out, and scored a good few tries at the end. So it's time for the aims of the season. The aim has to be to try and win the league and get promoted again after unfortunately getting relegated last year for matters out of our hands. So that has to be the main target for this season. Obviously we don't know how it's going to go, but that is the plan. Also we've got the East Bowl, and we're pushing to win that as well. Get another trophy in the cabinet, and if we win that we'll get the semi-finals of the national tournament. So it'll be a push to maybe try and make it to silver Saturday at Murrayfield, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We're going to turn up blind to every match, and we don't know what other teams are going to be like. So we just have to take it a game at a time and see how we get on for week to week. In terms of this Saturday, we've got 5-6 unavailable at the minute, so that'll be like John Frew, Jordan Brocky, Matthew Huggin, Dylan Alley, Thomas Anderson, and new standoff Harry Wilson. He'll only be playing if it's raining because he does bailing. It's a bit of a funny situation to be in, but That's where we are at the minute. In terms of the rest of the team, we're much the same as last season. We've brought in a couple of older heads who have played for us previously. Graham Colville, Stephen Douglas, which has probably brought a bit of experience and maturity in our team, which we've really lacked over the last 2 campaigns. Rory Hume as well, he's new to the club, slightly older head once again, and Thomas Anderson, who's unfortunately injured at the minute. Along with that, a couple of new boys, Logan Robertson and Finn Froud, have really put their body about and trained hard over pre-season, and it's great to see a couple of new young faces really coming into our side, which, yeah, again, we probably lacked getting over the last few years, so it's great to see some new faces up at the club. Yeah, I'm sure Coach Simon Spalding has been very happy how it's went so far, and we can just look and hope for a positive result on Saturday.
Well, Eddleston finished a comfortable third in this division last season, narrowly missing out on promotion, as well as getting to the East Bowl final, so bring momentum into this year's campaign. First up for them is an away border derby to Gala, and previewing that fixture, as well as the season ahead, is Eddleston's Cammy Hill.
After last season finishing the way it did and just missing out on promotion, we've really focused on the recruitment through the off-season. Overall, I think we've added a lot to the squad. Not losing any last year's playing squad has really helped. I thought last season we were slightly small compared to other teams in the league, so we've obviously looked and went away at bringing some size, which I think we've done, with Ollie Smith, Sam Craig and Martin Linton join us from Duns, Gala and Peebles respectively, along with experienced second row and Linton Brink, previously Peebles. There's also been a few new additions in the back line. We brought in Callum McNeil and Nathaniel Armstrong on Selkirk, Matthew Gaston, Melrose and Dave Anderson, Peebles. Dave also comes in as a backs coach this season, which is a great addition, especially with the experience he can bring. If we're looking back at our pre-season games, we've tried to play a better quality team this year to prepare ourselves better for the league in a full. That's really benefited us. We played a Berwick 1s2 squad, which out of all pre-season games I thought was one of the best tests. Obviously they had a few ones players that were needing game time, so for our lads to step up and really have a go at them, that was brilliant to see, just to show them the capabilities they have. And then we also had Rosyth, Pennycook and Peebles Reds, which was really good to get a look at our whole squad and see the variation of positions that people can play and how we're really going to set up for the season. But obviously now it all turns to the league, and Galloway and Netherdale on Saturday. What a way to start the league, a derby. We know this is going to be a tough fixture and a tough start to the season, but I feel we're in a really good place at the moment to going over there with a bit of confidence. If we're going into our squad selection, unfortunately we're missing Callum McNeil due to a hamstring injury and Matthew Gaston will work. But apart from that, we have a squad of 29 players available to select from, which is absolutely brilliant for the club, especially considering where the club was a few seasons ago. This is absolutely fantastic to see this sort of player pool available. So let's hope the squad we have selected can go and start the season well.
And the final Borders team in auction this weekend is Duns, and they're on the road to the capital to face Adams Uni Medics, and the Borders will be hoping to bounce back from a difficult time last season that saw them relegated from East League 2. All the best to the 6 Border teams for both this weekend and the season ahead, and that's your news from the East League teams in the Borders for this week.
The East League Roundup with Euan Welsh.
Euan Welsh reporting on all matters concerned with our Borders teams in the East League. Well, that's it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 2:30 tomorrow for 3 hours until 5:30. Hawick versus Marr is our featured game. Friday Rugby Preview will be back same time next week. So from Robin and I, a very good evening.